Hello and welcome. In our last tutorial, we talked about how to set up DBT Cloud. We're able to create an account on DBT Cloud, and then we were able to connect to Snowflake and set up a project. In this tutorial, we'll be doing the same, but for DB2 Core on our local PC. What we are going to do is we're going to download and install Python. That's if you don't already have Python in your system. But if you have, you could ignore the first step. The second step is that we're going to create a new virtual environment. I'm going to come later to tell you what this virtual environment truly is. Then we are going to install in that environment DBT Core and DBT Snowflake. Let's get into it. Next step, of course, is to download Python. So if you already have Python installed on your PC, feel free to skip this step. But if not, you're just going to search on Google, download Python. Hopefully the first link that is going to come is going to say download Python. And then you're going to click on this link, and then you're going to download Python. You just need to click on this link, and then it's going to download Python into your machine. So you're just going to click on save. And then when Python is done, all you need to do is click on it like this. So you see, so it's telling me to install the Python. So basically here, you just one thing to note here is what they call the path. So you need to add it to the path. So adding it to the path means when we come to our command line, let's say, for example, we decide to open the command prompt like this. So this is what they call the command prompt. So you can search it for command prompt or CMD. When this command prompt comes, if you don't add it to the path, when you type the word Python here, you're not going to see the Python executable started like this. I already have Python installed. That's why you're seeing it like this. So let's exit. So to exit, we just exit like this. So basically, you need to add the Python to your path. But let me show you what you could do if, let's say, you don't have the option of adding Python to path, or somehow this user interface changes. So basically, your path is something like this. So basically, you can edit. So you can come here and start typing environment variables. So your system has like a variable. Variable is basically to say x equals to 5. So if you want to store where 5 is, you say x is equals to 5. So for example, I can come here and create a variable. So this is how it looks like. So you click on environment variable, and then you can create a variable. So I could create a variable, so for example, new variable, and I could say my name equals to, let's say, name equals to Eric. So I have created a variable, and the value of that variable is Eric. So let me show you how I can access this variable now. So I press OK, and I press OK again. So that variable automatically is available on my system now, and I can access it in the command line by just opening the command prompt here. So when I open the command prompt here, I can just do this percentage or modulus operator here, and then we could put name, and then we put another modulus operator. So basically, if I do this, look at it. Although you say Eric is not, but you see the word Eric being printed here because this value name has, variable name has a value of Eric. So you can store variables in your system also, and you're able to print them out. So let's see what happens to when we are adding something to path, what it means. So it means that you are coming to say where your Python is located. So adding it to path is, there is a variable called path. So let's go check it. So I'm just going to open that environment variable. I told you how to search for it. So I'm going to open environment variable, and then here I'm going to look for the one called path. So this path basically means anything I include here will be available for me to execute in the command prompt. So I'm going to click on edit, and you see all the programs that I have in my as variables here. So these ones are paths. So basically you are adding different paths to it. So path is equal to like a list of things. So that's a variable called path. But instead of being equal to like 5, like the one I created, it's equal to a list of things. So you need to include it in that list. So you need to click new, and then you need to find out where your Python was installed. So in this case, we can customize the installation of our Python. We could say this is the place it's going to be installed. C, users, Django, app data, local. So that's where Python is going to be installed. Or I could customize my installation and choose where I will install it. So this is the location that I want to copy into my path. So this location here. So this is where Python will be installed. So I want to copy this one into my path. Or I could go ahead and choose a custom location within my system where I will install Python. And then later on, copy this address and come and add it here, where the Python is, and add it here. You see, add Python to environmental variable. So let's go back and follow the first step. So the first step is just to tick this one, so it makes it easy for you. You just say add Python to path. So it's going to add Python here. So by so doing, if Python is being added to path, what happens is that you will be able to access Python in this command prompt. So here, what I showed you here, so you'll be able to come here and say Python So I already have Python installed. So look at how it's available. So if you want your own Python to also be available like this, then you have to make sure you tick this button. So I just wanted to give you this clue about what path is and what system variables are. So let's conclude the installation of Python. So now you click on install. So I'm not going to install because I already have it. And then obviously the next thing is just to click next, and you're done. So now I'm going to go ahead to create a folder on my PC. So I'm going to create a folder. So I'm going to call this folder dbt setup. So this is the name of the folder. So I'm going to open it on Visual Studio Code. So if you don't have Visual Studio Code installed, you could basically just go to your browser and set for VS Code download, and then you install it. So basically this is the folder has now been opened on VS Code. So since the folder has now opened on VS Code, I like using VS Code. So basically what we need to do now is just open the terminal. So I'm just going to come here and open a new terminal. So you see, so I have my terminal here opened. So now that I have my terminal open, I told you that the Python we installed is now available. So basically we can start using this Python to create a visual environment. Just wait a little bit. So let's see what this visual environment actually is. So a visual environment is a Python environment that is isolated from other Python environments and the system Python. So basically you have a Python environment that is different from the Python environment that your system provides. So the visual environment modules, so Python has these visual environment modules that helps us in the creating of visual environment. So I have a pictorial representation of how this visual environment actually works. So this is what I have. This is your command prompt. So you remember the command prompt where I typed Python. So let's say this is the command prompt, and this is your main Python. So this middle one here is the Python we've installed on our system right now. So for every project we have, let's say this is a project, and then these are the software, the packages that the project needs. So what basically happens here is that if we can install these dependencies, these packages on this Python environment here, you see, for this project. So we can't do it like this. So, and use this project. So this one is isolated from the entire other Python environments that we have, and also from the main one. So you see, we can use it for this project. And definitely if we want to work on the next project, we can come again and install these dependencies on this Python environment and then run our project on this environment. So you see, so this isolated Python environment, these Python environments that are different from the main Python that you installed is what you call virtual environment. That means they come with their own versions of packages. So the reason is that so that you don't have package conflicts. So you don't have, for example, let's say this project require DBT 1.2 and then this other project require DBT 1.0. I'm just giving an instance. So there's no DBT 1.2. So I'm just giving an instance that if this project, for example, depends on DBT 1.0 and this project depends on DBT 1.2, if we were all using this central Python environment, you see there will be conflicts. But now we can create these isolated Python environments and then choose to decide which one is on the driving seat. For example, we could decide to say, okay, now we want to start working on this project. So what happens is that we will push this one to the prompt. So basically it will be here. It will be the one now in the prompt. Then later on, when we want to work on the next project, we can return it back here and activate another project. You see, so basically the process of making sure that a particular Python is running in the prompt is what we call activation. So we will be activating the virtual environment so that it works on that prompt, so that when you run your program, it actually run on this particular Python and not the main Python. So when you deactivate, means you're taking the Python out and returning it to the main one. So the main one will always be active always, but the virtual ones will be activated based on the command. So we will see it in practice. Maybe this explanation might be a little bit too verbose to have confused you a bit, but let's see it in practice where we actually go about creating our own virtual environments. So back to VS Code. So just like I told you, this Python that we created here is the main Python that we installed. So this is what we are going to be using to create our virtual environment. So what you do is that you can use this Python to create your own virtual environment. So Python comes with a module called venv. So the module name is called venv. So in order for us to create another Python environment from this main Python environment, the way we do it is that we type the word Python and then we say -m for the module that we want to use. We want to use the VNV module, and then we provide the name of our environment that we're about creating. So in this case, I'll call it dbt, let's say _env. So that's the name of the environment I'm creating. So I'm going to press enter. So when I do this, just watch here. So you see the folder got created here where my mouse is moving. So you see the folder got created. Let's see what is in the folder. So when we open the folder, we will see that in the script folder, so it has this include folder, lib folder, and script folder. So in the script folder, we will discover that we have like scripts that we can run. And one of them is the activate script. So I told you that now this Python is still on the driving seat, not this Python. So in order for us to make this Python, I mean the Python here, to be on the driving seat, what we need to do is activate it. And the scripts have been provided for us here to activate the environment depending on the shell. So if you are on this shell is called the command prompt. So you use this .bat to activate your environment. So there's another shell. So this is another shell here. So let me show you the other shell. So these are all shells. So there's a shell called PowerShell. So when you are on PowerShell, you see there's PS here, showing PS here. So when you are on this PowerShell, then you need to use this activate.ps1 to activate your environment. So when you are on a bash shell, you need to use this activate. So depending on where you are, you can decide which script you want to use to activate your environment. So what happens also is that Python also provides you a handy way to activate your environment. So basically you can come to this settings icon where you have manage here, and then click on here and come to, or you press Ctrl+Shift+P, then you click on this command palette, then you type Python, you see, Python, then you can complete it to Python select interpreter. So basically you are selecting the version of Python, the environment of Python you want to use. So now I can select now, and you see what it normally does, it shows you like a collection of all the environments you have so far, and even gives you a way to create a new one. So but what you will do here, we will enter the path. So I click on this enter path. You see it's telling me to browse my system. So I can browse, and then in this folder I can now open it and then go to script and select the Python version. You see this is the Python. So this, I will check the one that is Python and application. So I just click on it like this and click on select interpreter down here. Watch here. So I select the interpreter. What happens is that when I open a new shell, let's say this command prompt shell now, this environment is automatically activated when I open a new shell. Alternatively, the way I do it most of the time is that when I open a shell, what I do is that I just come here. So alternatively, you can just open this script folder, and then you right click on the activation script. So you right click like this and copy the path to the activation script. And when you copy the path, all you need to do is paste it here, and then you press enter. So this is alternatively. So you can also activate your environment like this. Or if you prefer this other technique where you come here, you click on the command palette, you type Python column, maybe select interpreter, and then you click on it, and then you select. Automatically, in most cases, the environment will already be here on recommended. So you just click. So whatever way is easy for you, if you're using VS Code, you could do it like this. And then in case you're hang here, you could use the escape to get out of this window in case you don't want to do anything. So now we have our Python environment activated. But the next step is to install dbt core and the adapter plugins. So the first thing we need to do is we need to just say pip. So pip is actually a package, the package manager for Python. So what pip does is that it helps us to install packages into our Python program. So I will say pip install, then I will type the word dbt-core. So this is how I install dbt core. So if you want to install more than a package, you can still do by giving some space and doing dbt. Then we can do, for example, snowflake. You see, so now we are installing 2 packages into our virtual environment. If this shows that our virtual environment is activated. So at the end of the line here, you see this dbt env being activated. So I'm going to click on what? Enter. So now I'm going to click on enter. You see the packages are now being installed. I will show you in the environment that these packages were actually installed, because these packages are going to install and also create scripts for us that we are going to be using to create our dbt program. So while this is happening, let's come here to the environment. So I'm going to open the environment. I'm going to come to lib. So under lib, you see side packages. Let's open it and see what's happening here. So you see these are all the packages that are installed. You see them coming in, even as the program is still running. You see many packages are coming in. Many are still coming in. You see the packages are coming in gradually. So we just have to wait as the packages keep coming in. So then you see dbt. So inside of DBT, you see there are adapters. And then you could even see here we have Snowflake. So you see, so then everything seemed to be fine. So to clear my screen on this shell, depending on the shell you can use CLS. Then we clear our screen. So when we clear our screen, guess what we also have in this environment? We also have scripts. Apart from the side packages, we also have, and one of it is called dbt.exe. So we're going to be using it now. So when I type dbt, to know whether dbt is installed on this environment, I'll type dbt-v. And then I press enter. So it will tell me the version of DBT that was installed on this environment. And then we see that DBT is installed. DBT 1.8.2 is installed and is up to date. And also the plugins, it also shows Snowflake. So if we're working on another database, let's say, for example, like Postgres or DocDB, we could do pip install, and then we could do DBT. Then the next one was going to be Postgres, for example. And then we're going to click on install. So this is also going to be installing the plugin for Postgres. Then we go back to the version now and dbt-v. So let's see what we're going to see. So you see now, we don't just have just DBT core alone. We also have the plugin for Postgres and that of Snowflake. So in the next step, we actually we will actually move forward to actually create a DBT project. So at this stage now, where we are now is where we actually create a DBT project. So in order for us to create this DBT project, we need to use the command dbt, just the way we did dbt-version. So now we have dbt installed. And I told you the reason why we have dbt is because dbt is actually located here as a script. So when we go all the way down, let's see, this is our script. So let's see, okay, look at it here. So this is dbt. So that's why we can interact with it here now on our environment. So let me just write this word CLS to clear my screen clearly. Then I'm going to go ahead to type dbt with the word init. So this dbt init is the command that actually initializes our environment. So let's go ahead to do. So we're going to do dbt init, and then I'm going to press enter. So when I type dbt init and press enter, guess what is happening? dbt is already asking me for the name of my project. So I'm going to say dbt new. So that's the name I'm going to use for this project. No, just letters, digits, or underscore. So you're not going to use you're not going to use something different from what is in bracket here. So you're going to use letters, digits, and underscores. So we're going to say enter. So now you see, because I installed two adapters, I installed the Postgres adapter and of course the Snowflake adapter. But because we want to connect this project to Snowflake, we're going to type the word to. So to showing that we are using the second option. So we're going to press enter. So now it's going to be asking me for this account. So when you create your Snowflake account, what happens is that you're going to be sent an email, and that email is going to contain this value. So this value. So what they're trying to tell you is that replace what you have in these angle brackets, replace it with that value. So I have mine stored somewhere here. So I'm just going to bring it in. So this is my own. So this is how it looks like. So if I'm going to show you where I actually stored them, so you see here that this one here, the one on top, this is how it looked like. So this is how I log into my console, and this is the path. So you see, I'm extracting this part here. So I'm going to copy it here. I'm going to bring it here and paste it here. So I'm going to say, this is the value that replaces this. Then I'm going to press enter. So the next thing is going to ask me of my username. So this is your username. The time you were creating Snowflake, this was the username you used in creating it. So I'm going to do, my own is Eric Agri. So I'm going to press enter. So the next thing is going to ask me, what do I want to use to connect? Because the password is simple. At this point, we're going to use password. So maybe if you are in a different scenario in your company, due to security reasons, you might choose whatever suits you. So I'm going to press 1 here for password. So I'm going to press enter. So it's going to ask me for my password. So I'm going to be providing my password now. So of course, it's a password. I'm not going to show you guys, but you know, you have to put your password here. So I'm going to press enter. So now it's going to ask me for a rule. So one thing I noticed about this point is that definitely we needed to have created a user and a rule. So you need to create a user and a rule. So because we didn't do that, although I don't advise you to do this in production, but this is something you might consider. So there is this page here that talks about rules. So Snowflake rules and access control. So it's from chaosgenus.io. So when you go down here, you see that there are so many rules here that you could create your own custom rules. But look at the rules. We have like organization admin, we have account admin, we have security admin, we have user admin. Public is like the public. If you use public, you might run into some errors. So let me use something, but I don't advise you to do this. But for now, just because this is a test account and I'm just kind of like playing around with things, I'm just going to click on this account admin. Oh my God, don't do that. So I'm just going to paste it here for the rule, and then I'm going to press enter. So for the warehouse name, so if you go to Snowflake, your default data warehouse, if you've not created anyone new, just use the same one that I'm using now. So it's going to be the same. It's going to be compute WH. So I'm going to press enter. Then for default database, I'm going to go to Snowflake and create a database now that I'm going to be using here, both the database and the schema that I'm going to be using for this project. So this is me just trying to log into my Snowflake account just to be able to create a database and schema that I'm going to be supplying. So when I come here now, you're going to see me create a database. So I'm going to come here to databases. I'm going to open it. Then I have this option here. So when immediately I click on databases, I have this option here that says create database. So I'm going to click here and then I'm going to provide a database name. So for my database, I'm just going to put use. So this is going to be use DB. So this is the DB I'm going to use. So I'm going to say use DB. So, and I'm just going to click on create. So this is going to be the DB I'm going to use. So I'm saying use DB. So within the DB, if I like, I'm going to create a schema for now. So I'm just going to create some schema if you like. So this is the schema that I'm going to create, or you just provide public. So now let's create a schema called raw. So I'm going to click on create, and basically this is what is going to happen. This schema is going to be created. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code and provide these details while we're creating our project. So the first thing here, I'm going to use use DB. So this is use DB. That's what I provided. And then for the schema, I'm going to just use the word raw. So you see. And then for threads, so this is like how many tables do you want DBT core to process at a time? So I want you to actually put a number greater than 1. So for me, I'm going to use 4. I think this is okay for me. So you might use something like 3, 4. It's okay. So I press enter. So when I do that, guess what is happening here? When I press my control here on my editor, there is a file that is being created here. So I'm going to show you this file shortly. So I'm going to click here while pressing control and click on open file in editor. So the file is going to open. So I'm just going to move straight to the project. So let me open it up. So this is the project I just created. So it got inputted in that file. So you see, I've actually exposed my password for you here. So this is the project. So this is DBT new. This is the account. This is the database. And then this is my password. And then this is the rule. And this is just everything here that I use in creating this account. So you see it here. So this is exactly what I used. And all of it got created in this file called profiles.yml. So now we are done. So we want to see if everything worked correctly. So I'm going to use the word CLS here. And then what I want to do is that, so if I come here to DBT, so there's this DBT environment here. So you see, we have this DBT environment. This is the environment. This is actually the project. But if you watch here, I'm still in DBT setup. So I need to use a CD to change directory. So I need to change directory to CD. And then I need to go to DBT new because that's my project. So I'm going to do CD. The way you could do it easily is just to come here, copy the directory, say copy path, and then paste your path here. So, and then just press enter. Or, so you can do this. So you see, I'm now in DBT new. Or what you can do is that if I go back, so this means going back a step downward. You see, I went back to DBT setup. So now you just do a single step because DBT new is inside of DBT setup. So you can just change by just doing DBT new. You see, just type DBT, not DBT environment, but DBT new like this. And then you get into the project. So this is either you copy the path or you just do a simple CD, you get into the project. So now that we are into the project, we need to check. So our project has been created. We have our analysis, we have macros. These are all folders. We'll come into all this later on. So now we just need to check if everything worked fine. If everything worked fine. So the way you do that is by typing the word DBT debug. So we're going to see whether everything, now we're in the project, we need to type DBT debug. This will show that our connection worked fine. Everything was great. The setup was okay. So we type DBT debug. So when we type DBT debug, let's watch out. You see? So connection test was okay. All checked, passed. That means everything worked well. So you could see my account here. You could see all the information here. You could see my adapter type. You know, my profile for YAML was found and was valid. And you see, even in the project itself, there's a folder here called dbt project.yaml. So if I open it, this is for the project. The other one is for the account. You see the name of my project. You see the profile that was injected in that, the other file I showed you, which is the profile.yaml. And then you have like the paths to your models. So here you can change it if you actually want to have your models leave it in another folder that is different from models. So you could come here, change it. And then some other stuffs here that we'll talk about later. So everything was fine. So the next step now is just to see how we can have like data on Snowflake to play with. So now I have like some CSV files that I want to push into Snowflake so that we could just see how it works. So basically, so we have some data here. So I actually got this from some repository on GitHub. So it's just data on AdventureWorks. So we just have everything here. So we have like sales, we have production, we have person, and then we have date. So you see, so what I'm going to do, so these are just CSV files. So we want these CSV files to become tables in our Snowflake instance. We are just testing now, so we've not really gone into anything much. So now we just want these CSV files that are in these folders to be tables in Snowflake. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to copy these data files now into a folder in our DBT project. So let's see. So the folder that we're going to be copying these files into is called the seed folder. So when you look at it as seed, so anything that is here, when you copy any CSV file here, these things are automatically, when you run a command called dbt seed, they actually become tables in Snowflake. So let's see how that works. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to copy those files to this very directory. So I'm just going to go to my system. So this is where the files are. So I'm just going to click on the files and I'm going to drag it to, not to models, but to seed. You see, and seed, I'm going to paste it here. So you see, these are the files. So they're actually here now. So all of them have like a YAML file inside. So basically this YAML file is just basically telling like what each column in the CSV file is. So that's exactly what is happening here. So then you have like the date.csv, which is what is going to be using as the date table. Then you have inside of these persons, you have so many tables that we want to create here. So each of these CSV files will be tables that are under this person. So let's see what happens here. So we have this address, and then we also have the address.yaml that kind of like helps DBT to kind of like know which data type. So you see it's putting a schema. So there will be schema here called person, you see, and then this will be the column. So it's going to create this schema called person. So it's going to create a schema basically with person, and it's going to also attach the name of our other schema. So we'll see how that works in action. So I will show you. So now we just need to run the dbt seed. So having the CSV files here, so the next thing we need to do is just come to our command line where we have our dbt project. We must make sure we are in our dbt project. You know, our dbt project is inside of dbt setup and then dbt new. So here we're going to be typing the word dbt seed. So seed. So this dbt seed will push the whole of these CSV files that are here and use those configurations that you saw in YAML to create tables in Snowflake with each of those tables being in their respective schemas: date, person, production, and sales. So we're going to have 4 new schemas. So let's see how that happens. So we press dbt seed and let's see, start running. You see, it's found 15 seed and 2 models. So the seeds are now working. You see, this is what is happening behind the scenes. So it's appending. So we are having like raw underscore sales, raw underscore date. Remember, the name of the schema we provided when we were creating our deep was raw. So it's appending that raw to sales. You see, so everything now works successfully. So we now have 16 seed. So let's go back and check what happens to the seeds. So let's go back and happen whether these seeds were actually created. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm just going to go to my DBT project and show you that they were actually created as tables in schemas. So I'm back to my DBT project here. So remember we use DB. Now it looks like nothing is here because I need to come here and click on refresh. So when I refresh, you see what I told you. So this is the raw date, raw person, raw production, and raw sales. So all those folders we created in our seed folder now became tables here in their respective schemas based on those configurations. So look at it now. So you have tables for date. In the persons, you know, we had so many other tables. We had address persons. In production, we also had like some other tables. You know, in raw sales, we also have like other tables. So this is how the seed works. So basically, we just need to put some data in our seed, like CSV file, and they will materialize into table. So what I want to do is that I will come here and click on this file. So this is my so I'm just going to do like let me kind of like select from this. So basically, I'm going to take this part here. And I'm just copying the database.raw person.address. So this is the database name, this is the schema name, and then this is the table name. So I'm going to come to my worksheet. So we come to projects. I'm just going to create a new SQL worksheet. So basically here, if I like, I could select my database. I could just paste this fact here. So I could just say select. So we're going to be selecting like star from this. So let's see. And then I'm going to click on execute here. So basically this is what, so I want to take this part. So I want to just copy this part. So I want to go back to Snowflake. I want to just talk briefly about models. So models, anything we create in our models automatically becomes either table or views in Snowflake also. But seed is just like raw files. So let's come to models. Now, if you see here, there are default models here. So, and you see what is happening. So this first config here is basically saying, let this model materialize like a table. So, but now I'm going to go into this example folder. Here I'm going to create a new file also. I'm going to call this one my table. So this one is going to be my table that I'm also going to be creating .sql. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to paste this stuff here. So this select star from user.raw. So this is what I'm going to paste here. And then I'm going to be trying to run my dbt. So this time around is going to be dbt run. So it's not going to be dbt sit as usual. So we're going to do dbt run. So this is what I want to do now. So let me see what happens in the project. So we're going to do dbt run. So now, we already pushed the seed. So you see the models. So there's now, so the models got created. So we had raw.myTable. So this table, like this SQL I just pasted here, will become a table in Snowflake together with other dummy tables that came. So let's go and see whether this also becomes a table in our Snowflake. So I'm going to be opening that now. So let's go to our Snowflake. So definitely we're going to check use DB. So this is the DB we're using. And then we're going to check the raw schema. Let's check the tables here. You see, we have some tables here. Let's check here. So look at my table. It got created as a view. It got created as a view by default. So if I had added some configuration for it to get created as a table, it will, but see, it got created as a view. So let's open it and see what is inside. So let's see. So this is this is kind of like the table, my table. These are the fields that are in my table. So let's click here to preview the table. You see. So let me go back to my data. So I'm on data now. So in data, I need to open this DB. So I need to go back to the raw. So go to the views, look at my table. So I could also do the data preview here. So you see, and then you see the data that is in that table. So it's a view, but I decided to put it in my table. So if I want this to become a table, so let me show you briefly some configuration. Although we'll still treat this is just more or less like testing our project to see whether everything works fine. We'll start all the way from, we'll still do seed. We're still going to do models very much deeply because there's a lot about it that we've not done. We're still going to work on test and even kind of like do some data modeling. So let's see what happens. So why are we having a view here? And why are we not having a table here? So if you look at this dbt project.yaml, so you can choose here so that the default materialization, so anything that we put inside of this example folder, so that is in models, look at it, models/example folder, automatically they become view. So if we change this one now, say everything that we put there by default becomes a table. So that means when we do dbt run, there will be tables. So anything in that folder. So when we do our dbt run again, see, now the configuration is a little bit different from what we had before. So you see, so let's go back to our dbt project now and check. So basically I will come here and refresh, and then we're going to check under raw. We're going to see that, you see, we didn't have there's no view anymore. So they are all tables now. So because we change from view to table. So basically this is where we come to the end of this tutorial. So in the next couple of tutorials, we're actually going to be looking at the folders properly, like other features, like we'll go into models. We'll even look at seed more properly, look at every other aspect. This was just an installation video. I hope you had a good time. So if you like this content, I just wish you subscribe to this channel, because I'll be bringing back-to-back Snowflake and data engineering content and even data analysis content as time goes on. So thank you for listening and have a wonderful day.